I watched in shock as our homeowner association president grabbed my disabled sister's wheelchair and intentionally sent it tumbling down our front steps. "Well, that was unfortunate," Karen said with zero guilt, brushing off her hands. She had no idea I was a federal judge specializing in discrimination lawsuits. Her smug smile would disappear faster than her property worth. It had started that morning when I was helping Emily get ready for physical therapy. Since her mishap 6 months ago, I'd converted my office into her bedroom and built a temporary wooden ramp for her wheelchair. The ramp that was now Karen Mitchell's latest obsession. I'd lived in Oakwood Estates for 8 years before Emily moved in. Our homeowner association was always strict, but things got dramatically worse when Karen was elected president 3 months ago. At first, it was petty penalties. Grass too tall by half an inch. Truck ends left out 10 minutes too long. But lately, she'd become fixated on my unauthorized exterior changes. "That wheelchair ramp is an ugly sight," she declared at last week's meeting, her manicured nails tapping impatiently. "It diminishes our property rates and must be removed immediately. No exceptions." I tried explaining that it was a temporary fix until the permanent ramp was installed next month. I'd shown her the approved building permits, the contractor's timeline, even the doctor's notes explaining Emily's need for ease of access. But Karen wasn't interested in logic rules. "Our rules," she said with that fake, sympathetic smile that never reached her eyes. "Perhaps if your sister's condition is so serious, she should consider a more appropriate living setup." I'd barely contained my anger then, reminding myself that Emily needed me calm and focused. This morning, as I helped Emily down our ramp and into my car, I spotted Karen Power walking toward us, clipboard in hand, 2 homeowner association board members trailing behind her like obedient puppies. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We're conducting an emergency inspection of your unapproved structure." I sighed, checking my watch. "Emily has a doctor's appointment. This will have to wait." Karen stepped directly in front of my car. "This will not take long. The board has voted to take immediate action on violations that impact our community appearance." The way she said community appearance made it sound like my sister's disability was personally offending her. "I've already explained that we have permits, and those permits were issued by the city," Karen interrupted. "Not approved by the Homeowner Association Architectural Review Committee." She held up a paper. "This is a removal notice. You have 24 hours to dismantle this unapproved structure or face daily fines of $200. Emily touched my arm. "Gently, James, we're going to be late." I nodded, trying to stay calm. "We can discuss this when I return, Karen." Her smile turned cold. "There's nothing to discuss. The ramp comes down or the fines begin. Perhaps this will teach you to follow proper procedures in the future." As I backed out of the driveway, I watched Karen taking photos of our ramp, measuring its size with the tape measure. Something about her smug satisfaction made my stomach tighten. The doctor's appointment took longer than expected. Emily's recovery was progressing well, but slowly. By the time we returned home 3 hours later, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A group of men were dismantling our ramp, tossing the wooden boards into a pile on our lawn. Karen stood supervising, a triumphant smile on her face. I slammed on the brakes and jumped out of the car. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Karen's smile never wavered. "Enforcing homeowner association regulations, as is my authority as board president. You were given notice. I was given 24 hours. The board determined this violation required immediate action," she replied calmly. "Section 8, Paragraph 3 of our bylaws allows for immediate removal of unapproved structures that significantly impact community appearance." I was furious, but focused on the immediate problem. "You've removed our ramp. How exactly is my sister supposed to enter our home?" Karen lifted her shoulders. "That's not the homeowner association's concern. You should have thought of that before installing an unapproved structure." Emily was still sitting in the car, watching the scene unfold with a mixture of disbelief and shame. Several neighbors had gathered to witness the commotion. Some looked uncomfortable, but no one intervened. "I need to get my sister inside," I said through gritted teeth. "Then I'll deal with this." Karen glanced at her diamond-encrusted timepiece. "My work here is done. Anyway, consider this a lesson in following proper homeowner association protocols." As she turned to leave, I helped Emily into her wheelchair, then realized our problem. With no ramp, the only way into the house was up 6 concrete steps. Karen called out, "You cannot leave us like this." How was Emily supposed to get inside? Karen turned back, sighing heavily, as if we were imposing on her. "I suppose we could help this once as a favor." She gestured to the 2 men who had finished dismantling our ramp. "Assist them, please." What happened next still makes my blood rage when I think about it. Instead of carefully helping Emily up the stairs, Karen became impatient with their slow progress. "This is taking too long," she snapped, pushing past them to grab the handles of Emily's wheelchair herself. "Just lifted up the steps. It's not that hard." Emily gripped her armrests, looking terrified. "Please be careful," she whispered. Karen ignored her, attempting to tilt the wheelchair back to navigate the first step. She clearly had no idea how to properly handle a wheelchair. I moved forward to intervene, but before I could reach them, Karen lost her grip. The wheelchair lurched sideways, then backward. Time seemed to slow down as I watched my sister's wheelchair slip from Karen's grasp and roll down the 3 steps they'd managed to climb. Emily cried out as she fell, the wheelchair landing hard on its side at the bottom of the stairs. I rushed to her, heart pounding. "Emily, are you okay?" She was shaken, tears streaming down her face, clutching her arm that had been pinned beneath the wheelchair. Karen stood at the top of the steps, looking annoyed rather than concerned. "Well, that was unfortunate," she said, as if she'd spilled coffee rather than endangered someone's safety. This is exactly why unapproved mobility devices are a risk issue. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You just pushed my sister down the stairs, and you're worried about rules?" I helped Emily back into her wheelchair, checking her for injuries. Her arm was already bruising, and she winced when I touched it. "I think we need to go back to the clinic," I told her quietly. Karen was already backing away. "I didn't push anyone. She fell because that wheelchair isn't suitable for stairs." Which proves my point about the need for proper accommodations approved by the homeowner association. The boldness of her statement left me speechless. My neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, had witnessed everything and rushed over to help. "I saw what happened," she whispered to me. "That was deliberate carelessness, if not worse." I nodded, focusing on Emily for now. "Can you help me get her back into the car? She needs medical attention." Once Emily was safely in the car, I turned to Karen, who was already walking away with her homeowner association followers. "This isn't over," I called after her. She turned that smug smile. "Still firmly in place?" "Actually, it is. And if you attempt to reinstall that ramp without proper approval, the fines will double." As I drove Emily to the emergency room, my mind was racing. For 5 years, I'd kept my professional life separate from my neighborhood. None of my neighbors knew what I did for a living. I'd wanted a peaceful home life separate from my high-pressure career, but Karen had just crossed a line that couldn't be ignored. The ear doctor confirmed that Emily had a sprained wrist and bruised ribs from the fall. She was lucky, he told me. Falls from wheelchairs can cause serious injuries, especially for someone with her pre-existing condition. Emily squeezed my hand as they wrapped her wrist. "It's not your fault," she whispered, seeing the anger and remorse on my face. "You couldn't have known she would do something so reckless." But I should have been prepared. I should have anticipated how far Karen would go to enforce her trivial rules. The doctor asked how the accident happened, and when I explained, his face darkened. "That sounds like a potential disability violation, not to mention assault and carelessness. Have you considered legal action?" I nodded slowly. "I'm considering all options." On the drive home, I made a decision. It was time to stop hiding who I was. When we arrived back at our house, several neighbors had gathered, having heard about the incident. Without a word, 4 of them carefully carried Emily in her wheelchair up the steps and into our home. "Mrs. Rodriguez handed me a casserole for dinner," she said, "and I have security cameras on my porch that captured everything. The footage is yours if you need it." I thanked her, touched by the support. Once Emily was settled, I went into my home office and made a phone call. I'd been avoiding Judge Williams' chambers. Answered my clerk. Susan, it's James. I need you to clear my docket for tomorrow and prepare some documents for me. I'm dealing with an emergency situation that requires my attention. After giving her specific instructions, I hung up and began preparing. For tomorrow, Karen thought she knew who I was. Just another homeowner she could bully and intimidate. She had no idea she just assaulted the sister of a federal judge with a reputation for having zero tolerance for abuse of power. The next morning, I attended the Emergency Homeowner Association meeting. Karen had called to discuss my aggressive and threatening behavior from the day before. Emily insisted on coming with me, arm in a sling. We arrived at the community center to find the room packed. Karen sat at the front table, pleased with the turnout. Her smile faltered slightly when she saw Emily, but she quickly recovered. Let's call this meeting to order, she announced, banging her gavel with unnecessary force. We're here to discuss the Thompson property violations and the owner's subsequent threatening behavior toward board members. Karen spent 15 minutes detailing my supposed violations, from the unsightly ramp to my angry tone. She showed photos of our home, pointing out each perceived flaw with obvious relish. Furthermore, Mr. Thompson has repeatedly refused to comply with homeowner association directives and has threatened retaliatory action against this board for simply doing its job. She looked around for support. Does the homeowner wish to respond? I stood slowly straightening my tie before I respond to these allegations. I'd like to introduce some relevant context that Mrs. Mitchell has omitted. I gestured to Mrs. Rodriguez, who connected her phone to the projector. The room fell silent as clear footage played showing Karen grabbing Emily's wheelchair, struggling with it, then losing control and sending my sister tumbling down the steps. Shock filled the room. Karen jumped to her feet. This video is taken out of context. I was trying to help. The context, I replied calmly, is that you illegally removed an ADA-compliant temporary ramp from our home, leaving my disabled sister with no way to enter, then recklessly attempted to move her wheelchair, resulting in injuries that required emergency medical treatment. I turned to address the room. For those who don't know me well, I've lived quietly in this community for 8 years. I value my privacy, which is why most of you don't know what I do for a living. I paused, making eye contact with Karen. I am Federal Judge James Thompson of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, currently presiding over multiple cases involving housing discrimination and disability violations. The color drained from Karen's face as whispers erupted around the room. Yesterday's actions constitute multiple violations of federal law, including the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Fair Housing Act, and potentially assault and battery laws. The board immediately voted to reinstate our temporary ramp and issue a formal apology. Karen resigned that same day, citing personal reasons. The full weight of my position came crashing down on her. Within days, federal marshals arrived at her perfectly manicured home with a warrant. Her smug confidence shattered completely. Investigators uncovered years of financial irregularities in the homeowner association accounts. Karen had been funneling thousands of dollars into personal accounts disguised as administrative expenses. The federal court handed down a comprehensive sentence to years in prison for financial fraud, major fines for disability violations, and a permanent injunction preventing Karen from ever serving on any homeowner association again. Our community transformed. The new board created an accessibility fund with the recovered money. Emily's recovery strengthened through community support. 6 months later, received a letter from Karen. I never understood the damage I was causing. She wrote, "Rules without compassion aren't justice. They're just cruelty." As Emily said, Karen thought she was pushing me down those stairs, but she was really just setting herself up for the biggest fall of all. Justice wasn't just served in my courtroom. It transformed an entire community for the better.